Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to SEADreamin. I'm Catherine Klasa, and up next on the agenda, we have Jiji Jayasingh, who will be sharing the org shape feature to make your Scratch org even more powerful. Just a reminder, please use the live Q&A feature on the AirTouch to submit any questions that you have. We'll review and address your questions at the end of the session as time permits. So without further ado, over to you, Jiji.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, based on the time zone. Thanks for joining today's session. Myself, Jiji Jayasingh. I have been working in Salesforce for over 11 years now and have worked on almost all the major areas of Salesforce, like Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Einstein, Integration, Aura, Salesforce DX, etc. I'm an ATEX certified application architect, and I'm one of the co-lead for Women in Tech group, Kochi. You can reach me in Twitter and LinkedIn. Today's topic is about org shape for Scratch org. Here we have the sponsors for the event. I would like to thank all our sponsors for sponsorship and the support provided to the event. We will be covering the following topics in this session: basics of Salesforce DX, basics of Scratch org definition, the tricky part during Scratch org creation, solution for it, basics of org shape, steps to enable, create, and manage org shape, Scratch org definition for org shape, and the limitations. As this is related to Salesforce DX, let us first discuss the basics of DX and Scratch org. Salesforce DX, also called the Salesforce Developer Experience, is a set of tools that streamlines the entire development lifecycle. It improves team development and collaboration, facilitates automated testing and continuous integration. This makes the release cycle more efficient and agile. Salesforce DX is a Salesforce product in the App Cloud that allows users to develop and manage Salesforce apps throughout the entire platform in a more direct and efficient way. Salesforce DX is primarily used by developers, and it allows users to have true version control. In general, the development model can be of two types: traditional org-based development or the latest Scratch org-based development. In more details, org-based development model works with orgs that don't have source tracking, such as sandboxes, developer edition orgs, or the Trailhead playgrounds. With this development model, you must track changes manually and deploy sets of changes to sandboxes and then to your production org. This development model is mostly suitable for the projects which have lots of post-deployment activities or on apps that have not moved to Salesforce DX. Now coming to the Scratch org-driven development, the development will be done using Scratch orgs. We will discuss more about the Scratch orgs in the upcoming slides. It encourages the complete source-driven development, which helps in continuous integration, as the Scratch orgs are designed to track changes between the local and Scratch org. This development model is suitable for applications that has less post-install configurations. Now coming to the details of the Scratch orgs, Salesforce DX introduces a new type of Salesforce environment called Scratch orgs. These are the orgs consisting of Salesforce code or metadata that can be easily created or destroyed, helping to speed up the standard development workflow. It's a standalone development org that has a maximum lifespan of 30 days. It is created using a Dev Hub, and it consumes a Scratch org license in the Dev Hub org. In simple terms, a Scratch org is a disposable environment in Salesforce that developers can use to develop and test their code and different features prior to their implementations. Scratch orgs are customizable and capable of imitating various editions of Salesforce. This will boost the productivity of the developers, along with enabling enhanced development, automated testing, and integration. Now we will just compare Scratch org with sandboxes. Definitely, Scratch org is not a replacement for Sandbox. Scratch org is a source-driven and disposable development environment. Sandbox is a copy of production. Scratch org is not permanent, and they don't include any production data. Maximum lifespan is 30 days, and the default is 7 days. Sandboxes don't expire unless manually recycled. Scratch orgs are used for feature build, peer review, DevOps automation, etc., whereas sandboxes are critical for staging, performance testing, UAT, SIT, and trainings. The edition, license, and settings of a Scratch org is based on its configuration file, but in Sandbox, it will be same as that in production. Now comes the tricky part during the Scratch org creation. A big deal of preparation is required as you build the Scratch org. In essence, you need to deal with many configurations so that the Scratch org will have the identical settings, features, and licenses, that is the shape of the org, reflecting the original org that you are using as a source. As you might have already guessed, configuring a Scratch org as you create it is quite a dreary process. Copying all the setups implies a lot of time, effort, and attention to details. Not to mention the continuous necessity to monitor that everything is up to date. And the worst part is that when a code is developed and transferred between orgs, this often leads to conflict in files and metadata, which is obviously bad. Fortunately, in 2021, Salesforce winter release brought an amazing news. A solution that can make the lives of developers much easier, as now they can quickly create shape orgs without all the painstaking works with configurations. Let's give a warm welcome to the org shape solution. The org shape mimics the baseline setup, that is the edition, feature, license, and settings of the source org without extraneous data and metadata. If the feature, settings, or the license of that org changes, you can capture those updates by recreating the org shape. It is available in developer, group, professional, and enterprise editions, but it is not available in Scratch orgs and sandboxes. The shape org has currently been added in its beta version, but thankfully this beta version itself is already working well and it's convenient too. It allows you to create a Scratch org on the basis of production org. This regards large-scale settings such as enabled features, but not the codes, triggers, etc. Now we will check why we need org shape for Scratch org creation. Org shape simplifies the process of Scratch org creation. Manual configuration activities are not needed anymore as the org shape mimics everything from the source. Assume that you want to create a Scratch org with certain features enabled. You might be thinking, we do have a feature option available in the configuration file for that. Then what is the need of org shape? Well, sometimes not all the features can be available in the features section. There are some features Salesforce will enable when you reach out to them via Salesforce support case. Those are some situations you can use org shape. Also, when you want exact features, settings, limits, and licenses of the production org, you can use the org shape. The main purpose of the org shape is to simplify the creation of Scratch orgs that will support an entire replica of production. Org shape includes the source org in terms of edition, that is the edition of the source org. The edition will decide which feature you get out of the box. In addition to that, it also includes the feature licenses, which provides the ability to specify additional add-on functionalities that can be supported in the edition. Along with that, it also includes the settings like user licenses, permission set licenses, organizations permissions, organization preferences, and organization values. But the data and metadata are not included. A Salesforce admin for the DevHub org must assign permissions to the users who plan to create org shapes or create Scratch orgs based on the org shape. If you already have a permission set for Salesforce DX users, you can update it to include the access. The main permission needed to create or manage org shape and Scratch orgs are the create, edit, and delete permission on the shape representation object, where the Scratch org details are stored. Shape representation object contains information about shape of an org, which includes features, settings, licenses, and limit information. This object is available in API version 50 and later. To get into the object details, we can go through the fields and its data types. Description field is a text field which can hold the description of the org shape as defined in the SFDX command we ran while creating the org shape. Edition holds the edition of the source org we use to create the org shape. This is a text field. Feature is a text area field that can store the add-on features present in the org referred to by this org shape. Last reference date is a datetime field used to store the date when the org shape is last referenced. Last view date is again a datetime field used to store the date when the org shape was last viewed. Name is the text field that stores the alias of the org shape that we have mentioned in the SFDX command we ran while creating the org shape. Settings is again a text area. It holds the settings of the org referred to by this org shape. Finally, the status field is the pick list field that shows the status of the org shape. The possible values are active, error, in progress, inactive, and new. We can start using an org shape when its status is active. All these fields are read-only to the users except the description and the name field, which can be updated during the scratch or creation. All the other details will be automatically fetched from the source org from which the org shape is created. The shape representation object supports the following method calls. That is, create, delete, describe layout, describe as object, get deleted, get updated, query, retrieve, undelete, update, and upsert. In addition to providing users with appropriate permission, be sure to assign the Salesforce or Salesforce platform license to the org shape users. Other user licenses aren't supported at this time. Before we jump on using org shape to create scratch org, let us understand some more features platform offers. A dev hub is nothing but the production org that is enabled to create scratch orgs. A dev hub can be enabled through configuration. Go to setup, enter dev hub, click dev hub under the development section, enable the option enable dev hub, and your dev hub org is ready to use. Please be noted that once you enable this feature, you can't disable it. We need to understand the source org. Source org is a production or packaging org whose feature, license, user licenses, permissions, and preferences need to be replicated in a scratch org. It can be enabled in a different org from a dev hub org, but the dev hub need to be authorized to access the shape from the source org. You can also note that your org can be a dev hub and a source org at the same time. To clarify things a little bit more, assume that you have two orgs, org1 and org2. In org1, you have enabled the dev hub option and you can create scratch orgs using org1. If you want to create scratch orgs using the org2's metadata, then you need to enter the 15-digit dev hub org ID under the allow a dev hub org to create the scratch orgs using this org shape option in the org shape. Enter each 15-character dev hub org ID on a separate line. A maximum of 50 dev hub orgs can be specified in this section of org2. This way, org2 will hold the power. So using a dev hub org and the source org, we will be able to create scratch orgs that will hold the feature, licenses, and settings as we need for the project. Now we can check the steps to enable org shape. Enabling the org shape is very easy. Go to setup, enter org shape, click org shape under development section, enable the option, enable org shape for scratch orgs. That's it. You are ready to use your org shape. Let's check how we create org shape and use it for scratch org creation using Visual Studio Code. As a prerequisite, we need to authorize our dev hub org and the source org using Visual Studio Code. We need to run a simple command for this like SFDX, auth, web, login, set alias, myprod, or mydev. This will take to our Salesforce login page where we need to enter our org's username and password and allow CLI to access the org. A success message will be displayed once the org is authorized. Once we authorize the org, we can create the org shape by running a simple command in the Visual Studio Code. The command would be like SFDX force org shape create -u, the username for the org for which we need to create the org shape. Once the org shape is created successfully, it will show a success message. This command is executed asynchronously. To monitor the status, we need to run another command in the Visual Studio Code, and the command would be like SFDX force org shape list. This will give a sample response like this, where we will be able to see the status of the org shape creation along with the other details regarding the org. Once the status is changed to active, we can use this org shape for the scratch org creation. To delete the org shape of an org, we can run a simple command in Visual Studio Code. The command would be like SFDX force org shape delete. It will ask for a confirmation message. Once we confirm, the org shape will be deleted and a success message is shown in the response. Now, coming to the scratch org definition files. In general, the project definition JSON file for scratch org creation looked like this. We need to configure the edition, feature, license, and settings that need to be present in the scratch orgs manually. To explain a bit more, if you want to create a scratch org with required features and settings, we need to manually define the project definition file with the required details. We need to make sure that we have activated exactly the same feature and setting that we have turned on in our production org. For example, if you want to work with communities, you would like to create a scratch definition file that looks like this. It includes the org name, edition. Then under the features, we need to mention the community's keyword to enable the community. We need to configure the settings related to community under the settings section. For example, we have combined the enable network enable settings related to the community's feature in this JSON file. Seems easy, right? Well, it is if you know that you need to combine the community's feature to the enable network enable setting. While setting up your scratch org with community enabled, you will then notice that you don't have any community license. So you may need to edit the project JSON file again to include the license setting. This can be easily done if you know about the dependent features and settings related to community. But in real life, you are more likely to encounter with similar kind of issues because there can be many more features or settings that are activated in your production org that you have never heard of. For example, under the feature security settings, we have the following settings that are the password policies, session settings, network access control, etc. Also, Salesforce support 100+ settings related to multiple features, and it is hard to a developer to understand all the settings and its parent features. You will find solution and workaround for almost all your problems, but at the cost of hours of work. But because of the lack of an API for all the features and the link between the features and the settings, this is very far from being perfect. And at the end of your scratch org definition file journey, you may end up with commonly faced issue, settings or features that don't have an API. This is painful because this will prevent you from pushing the configuration to the scratch org. Either you may end up retrieving the configuration file that was part of the scratch org, but not part of your production org to support things. Or you will omit these configurations from your repository and manually activate the features after scratch org creation. We may script the configuration file with the tool also, but that can be costly and fragile. This explains the painstaking work with configurations that the developer needs to do. That takes a lot of time, effort, and attention to details. But when we are using org shape for the scratch org creation, the project definition JSON file will be like this. Source org will take care of the edition, license, limits, and settings of the scratch org. There is no point in mentioning the edition in the JSON file separately. Features are additive in nature. You can include some more features which is not present in the source org metadata. You can't remove the features that is already present in the source org. The settings will override, but in case if you want them, you can enable or disable them once a scratch org is created. In this way, it makes it easy to create a scratch org using the org shape. Now coming to the limitations of org shape. Of course, org shape has some limitations, especially as it is in the beta version. It only uses the 15-character ID of the DevHub org rather than the full 18-character org ID. You can have only one active org shape at a time. Also, as it is in the beta version, Salesforce doesn't guarantee general availability of these features within any particular time frame. And also Salesforce has no liability for any harm or damage arising out of or in connection with it. To summarize, scratch orgs make up a crucial part in the work of Salesforce developers. They are needed for testing new features and code, which is clearly an important ongoing process. As shown in the step-by-step instructions, it is now actually very easy to create a scratch org using the org shape. And even though the org shape solution that was introduced by Salesforce in Winter 21 is still in its beta version, it's already an amazing and time-saving way to create a scratch org. With that, I conclude my topic. Thanks to the SEADreamin team for giving me an opportunity to present my topic to you all today. Thanks again.
Overview and something that's really interesting and really a great feature that has come from Salesforce.
Thanks, Catherine. I would like to thank the entire SEADreamin team for doing a presentation before all of you today. Thanks for that.
Yes, absolutely. I think we're all excited to have you here as well. We do have a couple of questions on the chat, and just to remind everyone, if you do have a question, we are here for the next couple of minutes, and we do have time to answer any of your questions. I can actually start with a couple of questions myself, just from the presentation and the topic that we're talking about. I mean, we know that there's a lot of things that we can do with scratch orgs. They're extremely powerful, very customizable, flexible, great for running automated tests. So the list goes on and on for scratch orgs. But as you mentioned in your presentation, it can definitely get tricky when you're setting it up. And doing it every time, you really have to pay attention to the details. So org shapes relieve a lot of that pressure to get it right every time. And I think that's one of the key features here. But one thing that I heard is that the scratch orgs, it's not possible to include metadata. And so I do see that as a little bit of a limitation. But when you are using an org shape in a scratch org, is it still possible to have a workaround? So for example, manually push any metadata that's needed.
Yes, Catherine. Actually, so the org shape actually helps this scratch org creation very easy. Like we don't need to do it manually, all the configurations, features, settings in the scratch org manually. So by using the org shape, we are just copying everything from the main org and we are using it for the scratch. So that doesn't prevent whatever we have the flexibility on the scratch org as of now. So whatever we can do in the scratch org as of now, that will continue. Only thing is that the manual effort in creating that scratch org JSON file, that will be easified. That is the benefit on the org shape actually.
Okay. That sounds makes it even better. And I do think that the template itself that's created, so the org shape itself, it seems like it's a very useful template. So is it possible to extract a scratch org definition file from an org shape?
Okay. So from of the scratch org definition file, so we will be preparing a file in the Visual Studio Code. So from the Visual Studio Code, you will be able to extract this file. But coming to the org shape perspective,
I think we might have lost Jiji. We're just working to get her back. Okay, just bear with us as we bring her back.
Hi, Catherine.
She's back.
Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah. All right, we can hear you loud and clear now.
Okay. So I'll continue. Like for the scratch org creation, so we'll be doing it in the Visual Studio Code. So the scratch org definition file creation is done in the Visual Studio Code. So we will be able to extract that file from Visual Studio Code. Using the org shape for the scratch org creation, we will not be defining the feature setting and edition in the scratch org definition file. So we will be retrieving everything from the source org from which we are creating this scratch org. So in the source org, we will be having an object called shape representation object, where we store all the details regarding this org shape, the feature, edition, the settings, all those details will be available in the shape representation object. So if any of the developer or an admin want to see what all features are enabled as part of that, maybe they can query the shape representation object from the backend in the source org to find all the details. And in the scratch orgs, if they want to add any other feature that is not available in this source org, we also have that flexibility. We'll be able to add that feature setting tag inside the scratch org definition file and able to enable all those features in addition to what all things are available in the source org. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Great. Well, thank you very much. And we do have some questions on the Q&A forum. So first off, we have Sachin Kumar, and he's asking, do we need to purchase separate license for org shape?
Okay, so from the feature perspective, we do not need any other license to be purchased. It is part of the package and it is available in most of the editions as of now. Even though it is in beta, it is available in most of the editions. So we do not need any license. Perspective. In the user perspective, the user who is using or enabling or creating this org shape, they should be assigned to the Salesforce or the Salesforce platform license. So only allowed as of now. So we should have enough licenses in the user's perspective, and only those users assigned to these two licenses will be able to access the org shape. They will be able to manage the org shape.
Okay, great. And our second question comes from Vikrant, and the question is how and from where to start to prep for the UX or maybe DX certification. I know that Jiji, you have 8 certifications under your belt. Many of them were obtained right in a row in 2020. So I think if you can give us some insight, that would be great.
Yeah, okay. So for the DX perspective, actually, we do not have any certification as such for the DX, but from the development cycle related things, we have the Salesforce Certified Development Lifecycle and the Deployment Designer certification. So we have well enough resources available in a Trailhead to guide us regarding this certification process. So share some of the resources related to that. I can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to, again, emphasize the fact that you have 8 certifications. I think in 2020 alone, you achieved 4 or 5 of them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I saw that some have been obtained several in 1 month, which is always quite an achievement. Yeah. So as far as preparation tactics, do you have any insights, any tips to share with anybody who's trying to get in a final certification before the end of the year?
Yep. Okay. So we have quite a lot of information available in. We have a lot of communities happening, community group events happening. So those are actually very inspiring sessions, and actually we get a lot of information from those sessions actually. And we can see that many sessions are happening that will guide us for the certification process itself. So Salesforce is a good platform to there. we need to make use of it. So last year, actually, I got a lot of opportunity to get more certifications. I got actually the architect certificate also I earned last year. And I wish to complete my application architect certification also this year.
Okay, that's really wonderful.
And all the rest for yeah, it's a good platform. We need to explore more on Salesforce. Yeah.
Right, and you definitely give back on the platform. You are one of the community leaders of the dev group in Kochi. Yes. And can you tell us a little bit about that? Do you have any additional meetings coming up soon?
Yeah, so I'm part of Kochi Women in Tech group. So we just started this group 3 months back, and we have already completed 2 events in the past 2 months. And we are planning for November end or December first week. So the planning is in progress. So hopefully we all can meet there in the upcoming event.
Yes, wonderful. I'll definitely look it up. And I think the timing is okay for lots of different time zones. So not just for Kochi or for India. I think it's quite reasonable as well for people all over APAC and EMEA as well. So I'll definitely add it to my calendar and hope to see you there.
Yep.
Yeah. So as far as your plans for 2022, we're almost again at the end of another year. It's almost the end of 2021. What is on your horizon as far as your next certification? What you're really looking to dive into and know more in the Salesforce world? It's kind of endless when it comes to Salesforce. So the sky is the limit for sure. But what's on your agenda for 2022?
Yeah. So I wish to complete my architect certification in 2022. So that is my first plan. So yeah, I'm preparing for that 2 certifications now. So yeah, that is the main agenda.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a pretty big one. That's it's I would say it's maybe a little bit more preparation than normal, but I'm sure you will do just fine. Yeah, and then as going back to the topic of org shapes and scratch orgs. Org shapes, they're definitely it's still in beta. Do you have any insight as to sort of the next steps in the development of the tool or where it's going? I'm just asking because I think you're much more involved in working with scratch orgs and org shapes than I am on a daily basis as you are a developer. So just wondering if you had any insight.
Insight regarding the org shape.
Yeah, just the next steps of the development of the tool.
Okay. So even though the org shape is in beta, actually it is working greatly in all the editions. So we can actually rely on this org shape even now. But there is a clause from Salesforce that they are not they are not responsible for any of the things that happens while using the org shape, even though it is a very powerful thing and it gives a more flexibility for a developer like us. Like developing a scratch org definition file is that much really a tricky and a hectic work for a developer, because we able to remember, or we will not be able to understand all the features and settings associated to a particular feature, right? So in that way, org shape helps us a lot. So I prefer like Salesforce should bring that into life, so that it makes the life of developers like us very much easy.
Okay. Well, we're almost out of time. We do have one more question from Shabana Khan. She is asking, what does a quality analyst, what should they know about org shapes, or what's the biggest takeaway for a quality analyst?
Sorry, what was the question?
So Shabana is asking what, I'm assuming that she's a quality analyst. So as a quality analyst, what is the main takeaway for an org shape? What should she know about that?
Okay. So as of now, everyone is doing the development act. So the perfection of the scratch org depends on the perfection of the development also. So if the scratch org is not in a good quality, if it doesn't meet the actual requirement, then while pushing the changes from scratch org to the development org or to the production org, the developers will face a lot of issues. So it is highly recommended that we, from the quality perspective also, if we could use, will reduce the errors, or it will reduce that we face while the development, as well as in the further life cycle of the development, like the till the production deployment. So I would say that is the takeaway that we have as part of the quality is concerned.
Okay. Well, thank you very much again, Jiji. We are out of time. And just to everybody who's listening in, thank you again. Help us improve by completing the session survey at the end. And up next, we have LDV considerations when large data strikes in Salesforce. So stay tuned and have a great rest of your SEADreamin.
Thank you.
Thank you.